Good evening. As the beautiful lady just told you, my name's Jenelle Riley, and I'm honored to be here tonight moderating this very special conversation with Kirk Douglas. In a career spanning 7 decades and all mediums, Mr. Douglas is well established as one of the greatest actors of all time. He is also a producer, director, writer, and humanitarian who has received the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the French Legion of Honor, and the National Medal of the Arts. His new book, which I actually put down Harry Potter to read, is Let's Face It. It's a wonderful, delightful book. There are copies, signed copies, available for sale in the lobby. I just want to introduce a brief clip before we bring out the man who has played Vincent van Gogh, Doc Holliday, Jekyll and Hyde, and of course he is Spartacus.
Thank you very much. You know, when you have a stroke, you must speak slowly to be understood. And I've discovered that when I speak slowly, everybody listens. They think I'm going to say something important. You know, when I first had my stroke, I couldn't say a word. And I was very depressed. But I learned that overcome depression with a sense of humor. So I made up a joke. What does an actor do who can't talk? He waits for silent pictures to come back. You know, at first, when I worked on my speech, I couldn't talk as well as my 4-year-old granddaughter, Kelsey. But I kept working. And then one day I said, Kelsey, say transcontinental. She couldn't say it. I left her in the dust. You know, at the time, I was hoping to be in a picture with my son, Michael. And he said, Dad, don't worry, just keep working with a speech therapist, and then we'll do the movie. That made me mad. I said, Michael, why don't you work with my speech therapist? And then when you talk, like I talk, we'll do the movie. But Michael did the movie. He had trouble with the ratings. No, to me, rating a film is very easy, you know. D, the hero gets a girl. R, the villain gets girls. And X, everybody gets a girl. You know, I wrote a book, let's face it, for the younger generation. But, you know, it's hard to talk to the younger generation because all the technology. When I was a kid, I remember a conversation I had with my mother. I was about 5 years old. My sisters were all at school, and I was in the kitchen with my mother. and I was very happy. It was snowing. I looked out of the window and I said, Ma, where does the snow come from? And she said, the angels are sweeping off the porch of heaven. I thought, I kept looking. I kept looking at the snow falling, and I said, Ma, how was I born? She kept stirring the pot. I guess she didn't hear me, so I said, Ma, tell me, how was I born? And my mother wiped her hand on the apron. She came over to me, put her arm around me, and she said, it was a morning just like this, snowing, cold. I thought I saw something through the window, so I scraped off the frost, and I saw a gold box. I said, Ma, a gold box? Yes, she said. Well, I said, what did you do? She said, well, I grabbed a shawl and I ran outside. Yes, it was a gold box, all engraved with fancy flowers. Well, open that, says. Then you open the box? And she says, yes. What was in it? You. Me? I was so startled. My wife, my mother came back to the stove, and I said, but Ma, what happened to the gold box? And my mother said, son, I was so glad to have you, I forgot about the gold box. And when I looked again, it was gone. So I want you all to know, you're lucky to be talking to a man who was born in a gold box. And now, here she comes, Jenelle Riley.
Wow. You don't need me at all.
You know, these are actors, and I want to be good because they may ask for me to be in the picture.
That's right. These are potential employers out here. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I hope you don't mind if we start at the beginning. You were born Sir Danielovich Dembski in Amsterdam, New York, the son of Russian immigrants in 1916. From these
you don't have to tell the age.
From these humble beginnings, where did you discover a love for performing?
Well, you know, seriously, I have studied Stanley Studio and a lot of other things, but I think primarily an actor is someone who just never grew up, because children are natural actors. They pretend to be cowboy or Indian. They have no shame. They just act. And I think an actor must not lose that childish impulse that he had. So that's how I became an actor. I never lost my childish impulse to be someone else.
Did you ever fear losing that impulse, even once you became a professional actor?
Again?
Did you ever fear losing that childlike impulse once you became an actor?
No. They were paying me. Let me tell you something. You know, people used to say to me, Kirk, you're so good with a horse. riding horse, fancy mount. Do you ride horses often? I said, only when they pay me.
Now, you attended the Academy of Dramatic Arts.
That's right.
And you were working on stage as an actor when you chose to join the Navy in 1941.
Yes, yes.
Now, why, just as your career was seeming to take off, why did you make that decision?
Well, listen, World War II, not World War I. World War II was a different war. You know, the Japs bombed Pearl Harbor. You know, everybody was patriotic then. As a matter of fact, I first tried to get into the Air Corps. And they said, I passed some tests, and they said I would not write because they said I took too much time to make a decision. So I went in the Navy. I went to Notre Dame Midshipman School, and I was in anti-submarine warfare. I was stationed in New Orleans for 4 months, where I got married to my first wife, Diana, who was also in the American Academy. But when I was studying in Notre Dame, I saw her picture on the cover of Life. And I said to her, I know her. Yes. I said, I'm going to marry her. And I did. But we were a disappointment in the armed services. I think, I would like to tell you a story about heroic deeds that I did, but we almost blew our own ship up. That's a long story. I won't go into that now. All right, I'm out of the Navy.
So when you left the Navy, I understand it was a former classmate who helped you land your first on-screen role in 1946's Strange Love of Mark Ivers?
Bacall, we call her Betty. She was also in the Academy. And she, when I came out of the service, she was in Hollywood dating Humphrey Bogart. So when I went back to New York to start working on the stage, she said to her producer, Hal Wallace, when you get to New York, you must see Kirk Douglas in, I think, The Wind is 90. And he saw me, and he asked me to come out to Hollywood for a test in a picture. Now, I never thought of myself as a film actor. I wanted to be a star on the stage. So I turned it down. But soon, my first son, Michael, was born, and I didn't have any money. You know, money begin to play an important part in this. So I called the producer, was he still interested in me? And he said yes. And I went to Hollywood and tested, and I got the first part in the picture, The Strange Loves of Mark Ivers, opposite Barbara Stanwyck. Barbara Stanwyck, Van Helsing, wow. And then in one scene, the director, Louis Milestone, says, Kirk, you should smoke in this scene. Now, I never smoked in my life. I said, I don't smoke. Well, it's easy to learn. So I ended up smoking about 2-3 packs a day.
Wow.
But about 30 years ago, So what am I doing? And I thought of my father, who was a heavy smoker, and how he stopped. He took one cigarette and put it in his breast pocket. When he felt the urge to smoke, he took the cigarette out and he said, "Who's stronger? You, me. I stronger." And I did that and it works. I have never smoked for about 40 years. Yeah, thank you.
So we really have Michael to thank for you becoming a film actor, it sounds
In
like.
a way, yes. And I tried very hard not to have Michael become an actor. You know, Michael, in his youth, never showed an inclination to be an actor. And I was divorced, and he was living with his mother and brother Joel in New York, and I was making pictures in LA. And then he decided to go to college at the University of California at Santa Barbara. And I was very pleased because I said, oh, of course, he wants to be closer to his dad. But years later, he confessed, he said he saw a brochure of the college with beautiful girls in bikinis and anyway, I want just finish this story about Michael. In his sophomore year, he said, "Dad, I'm going to be in a play." You're going to be in the play? Okay, I went to see it. It was a Shakespearean play, I think As You Like It, and he had a small part, a few lines. After the play, he said, "Dad, how was that?" I said, "Michael, you were awful." I said, I couldn't understand the word that Shakespeare had written for you. And I thought that was squelch his desire to be an actor. Because, seriously, it's difficult to be an actor, as you know. But when you obsess with being an actor, what can you do? It's like an incurable, that's difficult for me to say, incurable disease. But a few months later, Michael said, "Dad, I'm going to be in a play." I went to see him. It was a two characters play by the Belden by the Guild. And Michael, I said, after, "How was that?" I said, "Michael, you were excellent. You were really fine. And my son has been excellent in everything he did from that day on."
Didn't you actually purchase the rights, the film rights, to a play he was fired from,
Oh,
Summer
God.
Tree?
Why do you bring up?
Because you brought it up.
You know, I bought a book called One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I bought it. Then I paid the writer to transfer in the play on the stage, and I went back to Broadway, and I thought, now I will fulfill my dream and become a star on the stage. And I played I played in it for 6 months. I didn't take a dime. And the critics, they didn't like it very much. So I went back to Hollywood to work, and about almost 10 years, I tried to make a movie out of it without success. Then Michael, who was doing his last year at the streets of San Francisco with Carl Mulder, he said, Dad, can I try to do something with One Flew Over the Cuckoo? Go ahead. I said, I'll try how couldn't. In 1 year, he had the money, he had the cash, he made the picture, he won about 5 Academy Awards, he won an Oscar for Best Director, Best Producer, and I thought to myself, how can that happen? Yes, you laugh, but there's a sad part of the story. Because I expected to play McMurphy. Instead, they showed Jack Nicholson. I said, well, how can you do that, Michael? He said, well, the director thought I was too old. Too old? I said, I could have played that part now. So we have of course, Jack Nicholson was brilliant in the part. He won an Oscar, and life goes on.
In your autobiography, The Ragman's Son, I know you talk about, you disagreed with Michael. They changed the ending in the movie.
I disagreed with Michael on a lot of things. But there were a few things Michael did correctly. Like finally finding Catherine Zeta-Jones, who is a wonderful girl and a wonderful mother to my 2 grandchildren, Dylan and Karis. So he's doing all right.
I want to talk about, I know in 1948, it marked your first collaboration with Burt Lancaster, who you ended up making 7 movies with. He was a great friend and a great co-star. Was the chemistry between you two something that was instant?
Burt, I called him Burt, and he called me Kirk. I miss him. I miss him very much. You know, one of the tragedies about getting old is so many of your friends are gone. My wife said to me the other day, why don't you call one of your friends? You never call one of your friends. I said, they're all dead. Yes. You can laugh, but it's sad. I mean, all it has given me is such wonderful memories. I remember when Burt and I did the song and dance routine at the Oscar ceremony, where I go up on his shoulder, and we were wild. We were impulsive. We were always arguing, but we did a lot of good things together. And I miss him, like I miss so many. Gregory Peck, Frank Sinatra, Walter Matthau, Jack Lemmon, I tell you. You know, we used to play poker every Sunday at Frank Sinatra's house. Frank Sinatra and his wife, Barbara, Jack Lemmon and his wife, Walter Matthau, his wife, and they all died. The other day, I was playing poker with them, all the widows, And I was there, and I said to my wife across the table, you know, when I'm gone, you people will still be playing poker, and you will call it widow's poker. Enough.
You last teamed with Burt in 1986's Tough Guys. This was almost 40 years after you made your first movie together. How had you guys changed as actors in that time?
We got older. we weren't doing so many tricks. No, we were relying more on character. But, you know, it's sad for me. I almost feel guilty. You know, I easily to feel guilty. When I had my helicopter crash in midair with another plane, 2 young people died. And when I was in hospital, I broke my back, but I was alive. And I was thinking, I'm in my 70s then, and one of the person was 80 years old. He was getting ready to go to his senior prom. I said, why is he dead and I'm alive? So life is filled with so many enigmas. I will tell you one more enigma. Mike Todd was a famous producer. He was married to Elizabeth Taylor, and they lived not far from us in a house in Palm Springs. And Mike said to me, Kirk, will you go with me on my private plane tomorrow to New York? They're giving me an award, and I want you to give it to me. I said, I will be delighted. And he said, thank you, Kirk, because Liz can't go because he had the flu. My wife said, I don't want you to go. I said, what are you talking about? Well, she said, why don't you go with commercial flight? I said, that's the fun of it, is going with him in his plane. And we had an argument so intense, I said, okay, I won't go. And I didn't go, and the next morning, I was not speaking to my wife. And we were driving home with the kids to LA, and I turned on the radio, and over the radio gave the report that Mike Todd's plane went down, everybody killed. Now, how did that happen? You know, there's so many mysteries in life that are more mysterious than the things that we create on the screen. So you have to accept it. And when I had my stroke, my new knees, I decided that God didn't want me. Or he thought that there's much more that I can do in life. So I have decided what I can do is to try to help young people. Because let's face it, the world is in a mess. And the young people will inherit the mess. So the least thing we can do is try to help them deal with the mess. Am I talking too much? No, as someone said to me, Julian, they said, you know, Kirk, for a guy who can't talk, you talk a lot.
In Let's Face It, you devote an entire chapter to decisions you've made, both good and bad, that you made throughout your career. These include turning down roles that would win other actors Oscars in films like Cat Ballou and Stalag 17. How did you go about choosing your roles at that time?
Well, as you can see, I have made a lot of mistakes. I turned down Stalag 17. Bill Holden played the part and won an Oscar. I turned down Cat Ballou. Who played the part? He won an Oscar. He won an Oscar. I have been nominated 3 times, but I never got an Oscar, except for Lifetime Achievement. But I realized when you get old enough, you get all the awards.
Well, you also made some really good decisions. You did the film Champion. And you had to turn down a role in opposite Gregory Peck and Ava Gardner in The Great Singer.
Yes, that was one of my few good decisions. They wanted me to play my agent, the co-star with Ava Gardner and Greg Peck in, what was the picture?
The Great Sinner?
The Great Sinner. I turned it down to play the part in Champion made by unknown people, and they thought I was a crazy actor from New York. Well, in that case, I made the right decision.
And that was your first Oscar nomination?
Yes.
Champion?
Yes.
And you say in the book it really put your career in a new direction.
Yes, I remember I was driving home all alone from LA in the evening, and I saw a big line of people. And I said, gee, where are they going? And I followed them, and they were all going to a theater that has Kirk Douglas in Champion. I said, I'm a star.
I want to make sure I pronounce this right. You started your own production company in 1955. Is it Bryna Productions?
Bryna.
Bryna.
Bryna was my mother's name. And my father, I never heard him call her Bryna. Hey, the missus. Never Bryna. So when I started my own production company, I called it Bryna Productions. And then one day I took my mother in New York in a big limousine, and we stopped in the middle of Times Square, and there was a big poster the size of the block. And I said, see, Mom, your name, Bryna present the Vikings. And my mother said, see, America is such a wonderful land.
Now, I know today it seems like every actor has their own production company and name, but back then this was really unusual for an actor to form their own company.
Yes, it was very unusual, and I didn't want to be a tycoon. I wanted more control over what I wanted to do. That's all.
And with this company, you made 2 amazing films with Stanley Kubrick, Paths of Glory, and of course, Spartacus.
Yes. You know, I saw a picture, The Killing, little picture. God, I thought that's well made. Who made this? Some guy called Stanley Kubrick. I called him. I said, do you have any project you would like to do? He said, yes, I have a project, but no one wants to do it. I said, can I read it? Yes. And I read Paths of Glory. I said, Stanley, this picture won't make a nickel, but we must do it. And we did it. And that's one of the movies that I'm most proud of. And of course, it set up the career of Stanley Kubrick.
There's so many people have asked questions about what he was like to work with.
You know, and this is what will be my last story. My company, Bryna, was shooting Spartacus with Laurence Olivier, Sarah Lawrence, Peter Ustinov, Dean Simmons, Tony Curtis, myself, and the studio, Universal, imposed anti-demand on me. I didn't think he was right for the picture, but I took him, and we were shooting about 2 weeks when the studio said, Kirk, you're right. He's the wrong man, you have to fire him. Well, that was very difficult for me to do, but I did it. And as a matter of fact, about a year later, Anthony Mann called me up. He said, I'm doing a picture in Norway called Hero Telemark. And he started to tell me a story, and I said, don't tell me, I'm in. I felt I owed him that. So I did the picture. But how well I was with a big cast and no director. At the same time, Marlon Brando was shooting One-Eyed Jacks with Stanley Kubrick. And he fired Stanley Kubrick and took over the picture himself. As a matter of fact, he did a pretty good job. So I called Stanley. I said, how would you like to direct Spartacus? He said, I'm ready. He read the script over the weekend, and Monday he said, I'm ready to shoot. And we shot the picture with Stanley Kubrick. But now comes the story that I like to tell, because this is the story where I felt that I was a hero, finally, in my life. The only time I have felt that. This was the McCarthy era. Blacklisted writers. They couldn't be in the studio. You couldn't have them write anything, or if they did write it, they have to write under an assumed name. And but don't trouble a great writer. Was writing the script under the name of Sam Jackson. In the middle of the picture, I started to think, this is so awful that these people are deprived of making a living. Why? Because some crazy senator, McCarthy. I said to Stanley, Eddie Lewis, my line producer, I said, you know, I don't want to see Sam Jackson on the screen. I'm going to put Dr. Trouble's name on the screen. You know, people said, Kirk, you won't be able to work in this style. And looking back, I think what made me go through with it, and I think it was my youth and my maturity were coming together at a point where the youth part of me gave me enough impulse And the mature part of me knew how sick this whole situation was. So that's when I was a hero about 50 years ago.
No. Actually, more of a statement. Let's Face It is in many ways a love letter to your wife, Anne, who...
You see that, huh?
Oh, absolutely. What is the secret to a happy marriage, especially in this business?
You know, it's very bright because it is a love letter to my wife. And I have a chapter in here called Romance Begins at 80. So all you people have something to look forward to. And listen, I have talked myself out, but I tell you, I'm so glad to be here. I feel like we're all one family, and we're all sharing the same dreams and the same disappointments. So I wish you all the luck in the world. Stick to what you wanted to do, and when you succeed, find a part for me.